When you're out there shopping for sunscreen, you see UVA, UVB, sometimes UVC, and you actually haven't a clue what that means. If you see UVA and UVB on the packaging, we think that's enough. The first thing we proactively look for is the SPF, the sun protection factor, 30, a 50, or even an 80. But in this primer on skin safety, I'm going to tell you a lot more about the sun's ultraviolet rays. And I want to impress upon you the importance of UVA protection in your sunscreens. The United States National Cancer Institute tells us that every year over 1 million people are diagnosed with a non-malignant skin cancer, but that of these, up to 6% will develop into a malignant melanoma. So let's understand how UV works. Approximately 5% of the solar light that reaches us here on Earth consists of UV rays. These UV light rays can break the chemical bonds of our skin cells. This kills them directly, inhibiting the body's anti-cancerous defense systems. 96% of this UV light consists of UVA rays, which are deeply skin penetrating, and this is where the real damage occurs. In this diagram, you see the UVA rays on the right of the graphic penetrating deep into the dermis, and the UVB in the middle stopping at the epidermis layer. Now UVB makes up just 4% of the overall UV light, but it's the one that causes us to get sunburnt. The really important part about this small percentage of UV light is that it's the one that allows us to make vitamin D through a sort of a photosynthesis reaction with our skin. Vitamin D is increasingly being acknowledged as a powerful inhibitor of cancer, including skin cancer. It's definitely something we want more of. A third fraction of the UV light, being the UVC rays, are filtered out by the atmosphere and do not reach us here on Earth. So here's the gist of this primer. Pretty much since the beginning of sunscreens, the sunscreen industry has focused primarily on UVB protection because this is what causes you to get sunburned. The SPF test has actually been designed to measure the UVB protection provided in a sunscreen, but it doesn't give us any idea of how much protection is being offered from the UVA. A sunburn is a natural defense mechanism that tells us to get out of the sun. But the type of damage that I am talking about from the UVA rays happens before there's any visible sign of sunburn. By staying in the sun longer, because we've got protection from the UVB rays, we're actually allowing the UVA rays a longer time to do their deeper level damage. And looking at sunscreens, we find most of them out there offer great protection from UVB, but they fall way short when it comes to UVA. So the take-home message is to make sure you buy a sunscreen with a high UVA protection factor. Always look for the words broad spectrum, because that tells you there's protection from both UVB and UVA. But you should also check the UVA certification and always choose a 4 or 5-star rating. Ideally, when it comes to UVB protection, you need at least an SPF 15. I don't recommend that you get anything higher than an SPF 40 because it actually creates an imbalance with your UVA protection. And beyond this balance, always remember to reapply. Finding the right UVA and UVB balance in your sunscreens is one thing, but it's also vital that you investigate the toxins in your sunscreen and how best to avoid them. Is your sunscreen making you sick?